Hi, everyone, and welcome again to the Other World podcast. You might have noticed that we missed a week last week, and that was totally unintentional. But then when we got round to actually rescheduling a time, we felt that the energy had passed. And instead, we recorded another truth series, which we're very excited to bring you this week. That will be released on Thursday. It was a beautiful conversation, Fee, wasn't it?
Oh, it was with a beautiful woman called Alias that we both know. And yes, I'm very excited, as you say, to share that one with everyone.
So I'm going to start us off this week, the 20th to the 26th of September. And there's a few things that happen this week, and a lot of them sort of begin at the beginning of the week and set the tone for the week. It's a full moon in Pisces. Pisces is the end of the zodiac wheel, so it feels like often when we enter from Pisces to Aries, the sun enters from Pisces to Aries. We almost look at that as the beginning of the astrological year. Well, this is the moon having done a full rotation and going from Pisces, and will then enter into Aries. So it's another culmination and ending and new beginning. And it's perfectly timed with two other events, and that is the sun entering the sign of Libra. And Libra is the scales, as you probably know, and it's the balance. And we also are in the equinox, which is that point where day and night are the same. So in the southern hemisphere for us, it's spring. We head towards summer. Everything gets lighter and brighter and warmer. And in the northern hemisphere, obviously, it's going into autumn and fall. So they're the things that are happening this week. There's this big sense of balance beginning the week. Of everything being in balance. And with that, I chose a card, and I chose the ring. And the ring has this completeness to it, and eternalness. It feels very whole. And a ring itself, if you think about maybe a marriage ring, it signifies that kind of eternal love. And in some ways being in balance, that completeness of a circle, the two halves coming together. So that felt really aligned with this equinox, with this Libra energy. And then I also thought about that, the positioning of the sun and the moon and the earth and the rotations each make. And when it's a full moon, the sun and the moon are on opposite sides, and the sun is shining on the moon, and that also felt like, and the earth's in the center, that also felt like this beautiful moment of balance. So it could be a really beautiful week to feel into that balance within, feel into the balance that's happening within your life, and feel into the masculine and feminine within, the feeling and the mind, and how these two can work really beautifully together. Interestingly enough, this week we have a grand trine in air, and all the air signs, we have lots of things in each of the air signs playing off each other, and the air is the mind. So it's kind of interesting that there's also that going on in the background. But somehow or other, I just feel like it's going to be this week of finding our balance, finding where we might be out of balance, and what we can do, whether it's one or the other, to bring ourselves into more balance. And with the aspects, there's lots of aspects, and rather than going into each individual one, I created a little bit of a story of how it may play out during the week. So at the beginning, there may be something going on where rather than speaking, hold back and find out the full story, find out the facts. Rather than stepping into your power too early, first of all, gain the knowledge that you need, so that when you do move, you move with the knowledge you need to get the best result for everyone. There may be odds between what you want, your passion, what you love, and how to get there. And maybe getting there looks different than what you can see right now. So there may be a feeling of we always talk about receiving, of waiting for things to happen. This is a bit of a Mars time. So, and Mars is in some really beautiful aspects. So rather than waiting, it may be the time to act on the knowledge that you get. Once you've got that balance, once you've found out the sort of bigger story in the beginning parts of the week, then it's up to you to take that step rather than waiting for it to come to you. And that may be in relationship, or it may be in what you're here to do, your passions and what you're putting out in the world. So just maybe stepping out of your comfort zone and acting on the knowledge that you find. And when you do act, you'll find that the support will be there. The structures will build around you once you take that leap. Once you get out of your comfort zone to get what you want, then the universe will rise to meet you in that place. And with that, you get the balance of being on purpose and having the structures around you. And it's a beautiful time for moving forward with your purpose into the world. It will feel very aligned, feel like the flow is just behind you. And it's a beautiful time to move, because then at the end of the week, Mercury will go into retrograde once again. And it's almost like we're being asked to act, and then there will be this time of, okay, now let's look at where we are and reassess, which will be after this week. But this week is a time to make sure we're in balance, that we get the information that we need by looking at everything in a balanced way, and then taking some form of action on that. And there's a few more things, but I think, Fee, I'll just ask you to step in with yours now.
Okay, well, I love what you said there, because I'm a balance-driven person. So, the equinox is always a beautiful time for me. It's like I kind of sink into the energy that drives me. But it reminded me of an experience you and I both shared when we were out at the Flinders Ranges, and we did a walk that morning, and we had the sun on one side and the full moon on the other, and we stood on this ridge in the middle of the Flinders Desert, and it was just this moment of complete balance. It was such an amazing experience. And as soon as you started to talk about that I brought all that energy back into my body, and I thought, oh my gosh, I love that experience so much.
I remember that moment, and thank you for reminding me, because it was one of those moments that just stay with you, the feeling of it.
Yeah, and I think one day you and I will be out there again. We will do that, and we will take women out to have that experience, because it was, for me anyway, I know, such an amazing moment to just stand on that ridge and have everything in equal balance around us.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, for me, I'm going to start with my card this week. And I drew this card, which I know is very difficult to see, but it's actually the Empress card from the Shamanic Tarot deck. And I kind of love this card. I thought she was beautiful. She's the Empress, and kind of signifies that deep connection to the mother archetype, bringing in the energies of motherly love and abundance and empathy, creativity and prosperity, all of those sort of aspects that we hold. And I feel that this card is really supporting you this week in deepening the concept of co-creation with the earth. She brings you deeper into that connection and helps you really to nurture yourself by being out in nature. I mean, these are conversations, Deni, you and I have all the time, because we both love being out in nature. But it's something I think that we're all beginning to value so much as we become more conscious of the earth and our own responsibility to take care of her. So I feel like this is a beautiful energy that kind of reminds you what it feels like to be held in the arms of your mother as a child, and brings a deep sense of love and support into the week ahead. And if for some reason you didn't have that experience when you were younger, it's, I think, allowing yourself to go out deep into nature and let her hold you in that way to really feel that in your body. It's an invitation, I think, to connect at a deeper level in some way. So I loved my card this week, which wasn't quite what I was going to draw last week, when I had a different card and got, obviously a lot of resistance around it. But this one I loved, so I was happy to bring it out today. And the numerology for this week, we're currently sitting in week 38. So we're in week 38, and it's a 5 global year. And that means that we're actually working with the energy of 11 or 11-2 energy this week in numerology. And 11, or double one, is of course one of the master numbers. So it brings in some powerful energies for the week ahead. And master numbers always kind of strain the nervous system slightly and push you out of your comfort zone, but that isn't something to fear. It's more about knowing that you will gain opportunities this week to grow. They always bring in beautiful opportunities for inner growth and expansion. So the energy of 11 is the most intuitive of all the numbers. So you will probably notice that you feel much more connected to your innate inner wisdom this week, and you can therefore rely on that as your kind of GPS to find your way through the week ahead. And, always that journey of coming back into your heart and into your intuition to find your path forwards, finding that inner balance that you were speaking about, Deni, as well. That's where we hold all of that. So being guided and led in that way to gain the most positive experience that you can in this week ahead. But 11 is also the number of duality. So it's interesting that you brought up this balance between the masculine and the feminine. And of course, we're sitting in a time of duality and truth, which has been, as we all know by now, very uncomfortable to journey through for many people, until they've kind of reached that place of personal truth or inner balance within themselves. But this week, this energy feels like it's focused more on the concept of the duality between where we once were and where we are now heading. And I feel that this will show up more consciously for anyone who's still holding on to the past and has struggled maybe to detach from their old way of life. They may be holding a strong desire for things to go back to how they were. And this can be stopping them from finding the path forward. So this energy feels like an invitation to dig deep within yourself and notice if any of those sorts of feelings are rising for you at this time. You're really supported, I think, to release those feelings this week and let go of whatever is keeping you stuck in the past. So the 38, the week 38 that we're in, and that 3811 energy is also a very creative energy to work with. One of the strongest aspects of 3 is creativity. And one of the strongest aspects of 8 is manifestation. And so when they come together in this way, they can create the opportunity to bring your creations to life. In fact, this energy reminds me, Deni, of the 4 archetypes that you and I like to work with, of the fire starter, the creatrix, the way shower, and the wisdom keeper. It's about the spark or birthing of an idea, and then creating something tangible, and then showing others how to embody that with the knowledge that you hold. So it's a really powerful energy to work with, and it's really up to you how you step into it and how deep you're willing to go with it. So we also, of course, need to pay attention to the 5 energy that we're sitting in for this year, which constantly weaves its way through each week, of course. And that's always going to create a journey of sudden unexpected changes or adventure or liberation in some way. That's 5 energy. So however you choose to work with the energies of the week ahead, the balance and the things that I've brought in with the numerology as well, know that things are likely to not quite turn out how you expected them to, but they are likely to be better than you thought that they would be. And they are going to create a sense of freedom somehow for you as well. So this energy feels very positive, very uplifting. There's a lot of movement with this energy as well. So wherever you're at with it, I hope that, you know, these messages help you to find your place of balance with it as we journey through the week ahead. And then I've got a message, as usual, from the Akashic Records that came through this morning when I sat with the collective consciousness, or the Akashic Record of the collective consciousness today. And this was the message that I received. There are times when life moves fast and it is constantly changing. There are also times when it slows down and there is stillness and peace around you. And both are necessary for your journey ahead. The most important thing is to be in sync with them internally, so that you don't feel buffeted by the flow when you are trying to remain still, or agitated by the need to move when you are being guided to sink into stillness. There are so many influences that can take you out of flow with nature, but your internal compass, your heart, understands it perfectly. Your heart is energetically connected to the energy of the earth. Your heart is shifting in frequency along with the earth. Tune into your heart and into the heart of humanity to find your equilibrium. So that's a lovely message. I think that really aligns with, you know, the concepts that you brought through this week as well, Deni.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a couple of things there, Fee, that as you're speaking came up to me. And one was a post that I saw by Marianne Williamson, and she was quoting Deepak Chopra. And it was every moment you're making a choice, either you're chosen by your karma, or you're choosing your dharma. And it felt like that when you were mentioning, you know, living in the past, or living in those things that you brought in with you, or are you moving towards what you're here to do, and the balance, because I guess we sit somewhere in the present, which is the moment in between them. And then there was this beautiful piece, because we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been up to this week, and my week beautifully reflects a little bit of what you spoke about. I find myself very much in my art practice at the moment, and having the word of consistency being my word this year, which I'm sure I've mentioned before, but I felt like I needed that structure around what I do in order to move and grow in different ways. And I've really embraced that to the point where my art practice is so consistent. It's consumed my life. And I was speaking to a group of girlfriends recently. If I could do nothing else at the moment, I would do nothing else. Literally morning, noon, and night. I feel like I could become a crazy Catwoman in a studio with just paints, and I'd forget to eat, and I'd just be surrounded by mess and canvas and paper and color. That's how kind of like fully immersed in it I am. But being so fully immersed in a practice really shows you the ebbs and flows. In this case of creativity, and the way that my creativity, you know, goes through, okay, now I'm bursting and creating stuff I really love, and then just, man, nothing I do is right, and the blocks that I get, and going through it in such an intense way, I'm really noticing that ebb and flow of what you were talking about, the just the noticing. I mean, everything ebb and flow. Here we are, right in the balance between the seasons. And a beautiful way to sometimes look at where you sit within that ebb and flow is there a season that you don't particularly like, that you try and get out of very quickly, as opposed to really embracing it and enjoying it? Because it's so important, the balance of all four. We can't sit in full creative mode all the time, because it just doesn't work that way. There's got to be a time of rest, and there's got to be a time of gestation, and every piece is important. But we just might favor one or another. So I loved how that's coming up for me at the moment, Fee.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think for me, I've noticed, and the interesting piece you said there around one season that we don't like, because I always say I hate winter and I love summer, and and I am so drawn to the sun at the moment. It's not in a sun worshipping, I need to get my body brown and tanned way. It's just the energy of the sun. I just cannot get enough sun. And so even through winter, it was a case of getting up and watching the sun rise and just connecting to that energy in the best way I can. But what I did notice this winter was I was less resistant to it and more accepting of it. And I've also noticed how that's played out in my life as well, as I've become less resistant to the being, and and noticing within myself when I need to be still, and noticing within myself when I need to move and I need to put things into action, and allowing that, and not really letting go of guilt around it, and really letting go of any kind of resistance to it, and just allowing it to be what it needs to be in that moment. So, if I wake up that morning and I don't feel like I want to do very much, that's okay, giving myself permission to do that. Or if I want to stay up really late at night and doing a lot, it's okay, because that's just the flow my body's in at that time. And I do feel that for some reason I'm much more in sync with the energy of the earth at the moment, of the planet, although I couldn't tangibly tell you how that is. It's just a feeling in my body around it.
Yeah, and I wonder whether that has anything to do with us sitting in this lockdown for as long as we have. And we often talk about how some of us are just cut out for lockdown, how it actually, the quietness that happens in the world. We both sit so comfortably in our own spaces and in our own worlds, and getting out and going for a walk and then being back in our little spaces is just, it feels, we both work from home, so that's not a big change. There is definitely some connection that I lack, that I can't wait for with friends, and but it is such a comfortable place, and part of that, I think, is the quietness of the world. And I wonder whether it aligns everybody as well. I know that, we discussed this with Yia during our conversation, which will be out next week, just in a few days, about how uncomfortable that space can be for some people who don't sit so comfortably with space and quiet and with themselves.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? It's how because when we're in that place of stillness, all we have is us. All we have is our inner story, our inner sense of who we are. That's our only companion in that space. So it's how comfortable we are with that part of who we are. So and for a lot of people, there's uncomfortableness there that's covered up by busyness, and covered up by doing, and covered up by sometimes even by creativity, and covered up by life in some way. So when we are forced into that place of stillness, it can be, I think it's a good way to acknowledge to yourself what you're avoiding, and maybe the invitation to not avoid it anymore, but to sit with it.
Has anything come up during this lockdown time that you feel you're avoiding? Has there been anything arising?
Oh my God, so too much to talk about. There's been many things that have been massive for me in this time, and a lot of healing has taken place. Just of things that I even really didn't have conscious awareness of them even being there still, but it's almost like going to deeper levels with them. And it has been quite confronting, particularly in this time of truth, because a lot of stuff has been coming up around people's truth, and that's been coming out in my own family. And so, you know, that has brought up things to work through, which has been difficult, but oh God, amazing. And I feel so free at this time. I mean, I'm waiting for the next wave to come in, but at this moment, having worked through some of those things, yes, absolutely feel a sense of freedom around them, which has been great.
Well, I hope that maybe the word freedom enters into our readings in this next 6 months, or the next 3 months, really, until we reach the end of 2021. Freedom sounds like such a beautiful word to step into.
Well, it will be interesting to see because we've definitely been in a time of truth. And it feels to me energetically that we're moving out of that now. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's going, or it's not still going to have an effect on us, but I can feel us moving into a different place now. And maybe that's a new way of truth, or a new way of exploring that, but it feels free. So there's a freedom, I think, that's coming in around where we sit now with our truth that creates a shift for everyone, basically. So it will be interesting to see how that filters through.
Absolutely. And next tomorrow, Tuesday, we have our second Otherworld Circle. We've changed the time of it. It's happening at 3:30, and we've put out the link so you might see it in different places, and we'll try and attach it to our ads for this as well. But yeah, it's beautiful to have somewhere to discuss these things, freedom, truth, where you're sitting, you know, how it is in your space of lockdown, or if you're not in lockdown, just the times that we're in. And we had a beautiful circle last week, Fee.
No, it was really nice. And so many people there were really, I think, grateful for the space just to have those conversations. And it was nice to be able to offer that as well, because I know it's something you and I have both been feeling is missing at the moment, as we have been in lockdown here. But also for people around the world that are in different time zones and are experiencing this in a different way as well. And it's just that coming together with a common sense of what we're all going through, and being able to have open conversations that are held and supported without fear around expressing our truth in those places. So yeah, it was a really beautiful circle.
Yeah, it's a shame that fear does come into the topic at all, but I think that's the times we're sitting in at the moment. But we would love for any of you that feel the calling to sit in circle again. It is on Zoom, but it's a beautiful space to just click the link, go to the Otherworld Insta or Facebook. We've got links on all of our pages.
Excellent. And have a good week ahead.